I really wish I'd heeded the advice of my parents and had brushed and flossed my teeth twice daily and after lunch. The reality is that I haven't brushed my teeth in 20 years. I developed a fear ever since my gums started bleeding while brushing my teeth when I was young. I didn't know at that tender age that was because of inadequate plaque removal. I've got a bachelor's degree now in journalism, and I'm the proud owner of a baritone voice. While keeping these positive factors in mind, I applied to several television studios for the post of a news anchor. Unfortunately, all of them rejected me during the audition process. They told me that it was impossible for me to become a news anchor because of the terrible condition of my teeth. I was afraid to hang around with my friends because of the foul odor coming out of my mouth. I was not aware that particles of food left in the mouth are the breeding grounds of sulfur compounds causing bacteria. I would not have had to suffer this humility had I brushed my teeth on a regular basis. Like most people, I fear going to the dentist. However, I had no options left. After a single glance, the specialist asked me how many years had I not brushed my teeth. I told him that it had been probably more than 20 years when I last brushed. The specialist replied that I had no option left apart from opting for massive dental repair work. According to him, the first step would be to clean my teeth to remove the buildup of plaque, harden the food debris and tartar during all those years. However, the sight of my teeth was not too impressive after this procedure. I had a fear in my mind that he might have to extract all of my teeth and replace them with false ones. Well, I heaved a sigh of relief when Mr. Johnson informed me that although the bones and roots of my mouth were healthy, he would have to remove at least a dozen teeth because of decay. However, he informed me that he would not go ahead with the procedure until I made a few promises. He told me I would have to change my lifestyle. I would have to cut down on aerated drinks or stop drinking them altogether. He also stated that I'd have to cut down on sweets, begin brushing my teeth, and start trying to floss them after he'd completed the process. I had no options left apart from agreeing to what he said. Once I promised to change my lifestyle as recommended, the dentist extracted 12 of my teeth and replaced them with implants. I had to visit him several times to get this whole process completed, and it was not practically feasible to extract so many teeth in a single setting. Although I did not feel any pain during the extraction process since the dentist had injected anesthesia, I did feel afraid every time I had to visit him. The entire process of removing a dozen teeth and cleaning the others to remove all the buildup of hardened food deposits, plaque, and tartar, it took nearly 5 months. Although the dentist has helped me to replace my damaged teeth with implants in such a manner that nobody could distinguish between them and my original teeth, and he also helped me regain my pearly white smile and my self-confidence, it's still a lesson for those who do not indulge in oral hygiene. Mr. Johnson told me that he'd seen many mouths that were as bad or even worse than that of mine. He also stated that it takes a combination of several factors for teeth to get bad. They include poor oral hygiene, as well as poor diet, as well as aggressive bacteria. He told me that I shouldn't have waited so long for treatment. When skilled dentists and advanced technology can help restore your damaged teeth, I'd recommend others not let things get out of control by brushing their teeth twice daily and visiting the dentist at least once every 6 months. By the way, I have finally landed a job of news anchor in one of the leading TV news channels.
Hi, my name is Steve, and I am 16 years old. And I'm going to tell you a story about how I prank called 911 and calls, especially prank calling 911. Thanks for
I'm Mia. Have you ever had those experiences where you're just left alone somewhere and nobody didn't tell you anything? Well, surprisingly, that actually happened to me. How I was left on a plane and everybody just left without me. And honestly, it was actually one of the worst experiences I ever had in my life. See, I was coming back from my trip from France and I had a wonderful time there. And I was also looking forward to going back home. I sat on the plane, and I was actually looking forward to go back home. There wasn't really anything good on the plane, no movies, nothing, but suddenly, I just dozed off. This was something that I didn't know what was going to happen next. As I woke up, I noticed everything was all dark, and it was all pitch black dark and empty and cold. I texted my friend and told her what happened. I said, I just woke up and I am all alone on the plane. OMG. My friend replied afterwards saying, what? Nobody woke you up? Can you get off? I told her that the door was shut and that I can't get out. And then, as I was going to write my next message, my phone died. At this point, I just started panicking. I was like panicking at this point. It's like, what kind of a sick nightmare was I in? What kind of airline service does this? Leaving people behind on an airplane like this? I started freaking out at this point. I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I just started wandering around on the plane, and I was like, this feels like a horror movie. Like, what? After that, I just started wandering. There was no power, nowhere to charge my phones. After that, I fumbled around the plane and found a door, and in there, I found the cockpit. And then I found a light, and I was like, this is the best moment ever. Thank you. There were a lot of buttons on the plane, and I was afraid I might touch one of them. I mean, what if I do something wrong? What if I let the plane go like flying somewhere, or press the wrong button? But I knew I had to do something, so I just pressed a red button. I didn't know what it was. At this point, I just started sweating and just started panicking. I pressed it. Was a signal baggage handler, and I pressed it, and immediately, next thing you know, one of the people, the baggage attendant, saw the thing, saw the alert, and rushed to the airplane. He asked me, what are you doing there? What are you doing on the plane? I told him about the whole situation, and he said, who actually leaves people behind on an airplane? I asked myself the exact same question, and I didn't even know why. Who would do this? The next hour, the man brought me to the one of the flight attendants there, and me and him told him the whole story. They said they were a bit shocked by what they heard, and they were quite surprised. But they told me that they had heard about another situation like this too. From my friend. It turns out that my friend had called the airport and told them the whole situation, that I was stuck on the plane, and she immediately contacted them. After that, they made up their apology and wanted to make it up to me, saying that if they wanted a hotel room, or even take a limo, but I declined that and just wanted to go home. For the next few nights, I kept rethinking about this episode over and over for the next few days. How I was all alone on a plane, and how I was just forgotten about. How I was cold, trapped, and scared. Hi, my name is Gina, and my high school life sucked. Not because of the students or the home, but because of one of my teachers. Mrs. Huckleberry. The meanest, most bitter woman I knew. And boy, do I have a story for you. She was my first teacher in high school, early in the morning. She hated me. How do I know that? Well, every time I would turn in my homework or tests, she would try to find anything wrong with it and take points off, even though I was a good student. She always tried to lower my grade. The pettiest thing she's done was telling me I didn't fill in the circle all the way. Off half a point. I didn't know why she disliked me so much. I never caused trouble, and I didn't talk to her outside of class. I've never gotten a detention, and yet she still hated me the most. Well, one day, her dislike for me began to grow more obvious to me. And the rest of the class, it started off more subtle. Whenever I answer, after that, she would ridicule and mock me if I was wrong. The other students tried calling her out on it, but she threatened to fail them to quiet them. And it worked. The verbal abuse soon started to affect my grades slowly. I couldn't concentrate and constantly second-guess myself because of her comments. 2 months later, I went to the principal and told him my English teacher was being extremely rude to me and abusing her power as an authority figure. He told me she was a transfer from a prominent school, and I would need clear evidence for him to relieve her of her teaching position, and I understood perfectly. So from then on, whenever I was in her class, I would record her lecture. Sure, maybe it was illegal, but at that point, I didn't care. As the weeks went by, the recordings slowly began to rack up, including the amount of insults. Not sooner than 3 weeks later, I had had enough. In her class, when she asked a question, I answered it. She passive-aggressively told me I was an idiot for thinking that was the answer. After she told me that, I stood from my seat and walked out of class. She yelled after me and said I was acting like a child for being proven wrong. But little did she know, I was on my way to the bathroom to assemble my evidence. But I made it to the principal's office first, and I shown the recordings to him. And Miss Huckleberry entered the principal's office, and when she heard the recordings, she just froze, like solid ice. After the recordings were done, the principal wanted an explanation from Miss Huckleberry as to why she did it. She stated that she didn't mean to do it, but the principal said that he was not interested in listening to her excuses, and said that this kind of thing was not acceptable, especially in the school. After that, he thanked me for bringing that to his attention and not causing any ridiculous outbursts. And he asked me to email those recordings to him, and he's going to send them to Mrs. Huckleberry's main employer. The next day, Mrs. Huckleberry was nowhere to be seen. Her picture and name were removed from both the school and its website. From what I've heard, she was fired by her employer, and now she is jobless. Not to mention, this will be a permanent stain on her resume. The other students were also grateful. Some teachers are great and helpful, but others do more harm than good. This teacher, in particular, aimed her toxicity at me for some reason. Maybe now she has learned that her abusive behavior won't be tolerated by anyone. I only ate poutine for years. I love poutine. I know, everybody loves poutine. But I loved it so much that it was the only thing I ate for 10 years. Isn't your mouth already watering by just imagining it? It all started at the beginning of 1st grade. On the first day of school, I walked into the cafeteria and I nearly threw up. The smell was horrible. All around me were different types of food, and their smells were all mixing together. Even if you could pick out just one smell, it was never a good one. The entire room smelled like a garbage can. There was no way that I was going to eat anything that came out from the cafeteria. And not if it smelled like that. For the first couple of days, I just didn't eat. I sat with my friends and tried to ignore the smells. But while they were laughing, my stomach was growling.
Feed me, master.
And I was starving, but I couldn't bring myself to eat anything that came from the cafeteria. After a few days, I asked my parents if I could start bringing my lunch with me. My mom said it was okay, but she didn't have time to pack my lunch for me, and I would have to pack it up myself every morning. And anything was better than the cafeteria. So, I agreed. And so the next morning, I got up extra early and made my lunch. I opened up the fridge to make a sandwich, but the lunch meat wasn't the first thing to catch my eye. Instead, on the bottom of the fridge, I saw a plate of fries, a bucket of gravy, and cheese balls that my dad had brought home from work. And as I said before, I love poutine. I looked at it and took it all with me. And the problem was, once I started, I couldn't stop. I started packing poutine every day. I started eating poutine for lunch every day. And the idea of eating anything else started to seem crazy. Why would I trade in my fries and gravy, gooey cheese, for a boring old sandwich? Or something out of the cafeteria? The more poutine I ate for lunch, the less real food I wanted to eat at dinner. My mom would work really hard to make a big meal for me and my family. But all I would be able to think about how it was not poutine. I stopped eating dinner with my family, until my mom started to realize what was happening, and started to let me eat poutine too. I was eating poutine for every meal. And after a while, it felt like I was living the dream. I was looking forward to lunch and dinner every day. And I laughed at all my friends whose parents had to make them eat fruits and vegetables for lunch. And I bragged that all I ever ate was poutine. But after a couple of years of eating poutine every single day, I didn't really feel as good about it anymore. I still loved eating poutine, but by the time I hit high school, I was starting to see effects from my unhealthy eating habits. I had started to gain weight, and it was really bad for my self-esteem. And soon, I started to have other problems as well. Everybody gets acne in high school, but I seemed to have it worst of all, and it wouldn't go away no matter what I washed my face with. Things even got so bad that I got sick. My stomach would hurt all the time, and I started to throw up after some of my meals. I didn't feel good about eating poutine anymore, and I didn't really feel good at all. My mom took me to the doctor, and she explained what had been happening. My doctor said that I needed to eat healthier or else things would get worse. And it wasn't easy, but I started to eat better. First, I tried eating poutine with vegetables on it. Then I eventually had to start eating the vegetables on their own. I didn't like it, but I told myself that eating vegetables was better than throwing up. It took a few weeks, but soon I was able to eat a full meal without any poutine. I wasn't throwing up anymore, and my acne was already starting to clear up. I felt better about myself than I had in years, and my body was changing to match that feeling. I still love poutine, and I eat it every once in a while, but I am not obsessed anymore, and I feel so much better because of it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more stories.